What's up, guys? So I've had a couple of y'all reach out and ask, what is it like moving from a middleweight sport bike to a leader class sport bike? And if you're watching this, chances are you might have an R6, you've got a GSX R600 or 750, something along those lines, and you're looking to upgrade to, say, an R1, ZX10, GSXR 1000, the usual suspects when it comes to the leader class bikes. And the question is, what's it like? Is it scary? This whole new world opens up with all this extra power, and it's a lot more power at that. It's practically almost double the horsepower, right? So is that scary? Should you be intimidated? Well, a couple of things. One, you're right to question, and you're right to be a little bit spooked by it because, yeah, it's a ton more power, but what I want to do is I want to put you at ease a little bit. If you're thinking about making the switch, the difference is not something that is going to feel alien to you. It is going to feel faster. It is going to feel more powerful, but you've already felt a powerful motorcycle as it sits. I mean, the strange thing about this conversation is that you're coming from a motorcycle that is already vastly faster than normal standard bikes, right? So we're just talking about the upper echelon, the fastest of the fast now. And so let's get into it. So the way I like to describe the difference between a motorcycle in the middleweight sport bike and a leader bike is this. The scenario is you're getting onto the highway. You've got a nice long on-ramp that you're going to be playing with, and the light turns green, you make the turn, you get on your on-ramp, clear road ahead. First gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, do a head check, fifth gear, and now you're on the highway. Basically just letting that middleweight fan through the gears at, say, 12,000 RPM shift. You're really not even wide open with the thing. You're just riding it, having a good time, listening to the sounds. You look down at your speedometer, and let's say you're doing 100 or maybe even 105, 110 miles an hour. On a leader class bike, exact same scenario. First gear, second gear, third gear. Now you're doing your head check. Fourth gear, fifth gear. And you're not wide open. You're, say, maybe what you would perceive to be 75% throttle. You look down at your speedometer just to get a speed check. And instead of doing, say, 100 or 105-ish miles per hour, you're doing 135-ish, maybe even 140 miles per hour. That's the difference between the two bikes. The leader class motorcycle normalizes what smart and regular people would think are insane speeds. They will accelerate at a rate that is just a little bit more aggressive than the bike that you already are riding, but it will do it for much longer, and it will do that at a lighter throttle input. So what your perception is, as far as how hard you're working that motorcycle, you will feel like you're working the leader class bike far less, but it will be providing a much greater rate of acceleration than the middleweight that you may be really digging into to try to get some acceleration out of. So that's the experience in a nutshell. They're just faster in that you don't realize really how fast you're going with the bike until you look down. And once you get accustomed to that, it's kind of weird to even say it like this, but once you basically get used to the fact that this is the bike that you're riding, it becomes very normal and very kind of sedate, really. You're not even thinking about when you're buzzing the thing up to about 100 miles an hour, to be honest with you. That'll happen just because you're riding the motorcycle. You're just kind of entering traffic, rolling into the throttle after a head check, still on the throttle a little bit. The thing just keeps accelerating, but it's not really a freak out level of acceleration like what you would expect. It's strange just how kind of smooth and kind of lazy it almost feels in a way. But again, the speedometer isn't going to lie to you. There is one thing about a leader bike, though, that I do need to let you know. If you're thinking about coming from a middleweight and you're used to the suspension setup that you've got with the smaller bike, the leader bikes are more stiffly sprung. The forks and the rear shock are going to have a considerably higher spring rate. They're a stiffer ride than what you're coming from. And if you do a lot of street riding, this is going to be something that you are seriously going to want to know, because it is going to be a harsher ride. And you might go, okay, well, I could just take some preload out of it, soften up the suspension. You're kind of right with that, but I'm just going to caution you on this. The reason why that motorcycle is stiffer is because that suspension is designed to deal with the higher loads and the higher G-forces that that bike will be applying, whether you are at acceleration, meaning you don't want the bike to squat, which means the front end comes up a lot easier, or you float the front tire under hard acceleration. That can lead to a head shake. So because it's accelerating harder and it's putting more load on the rear swing arm, or the swing arm, I should say, it's going to have a tendency to squat more. So you want more preload in that rear suspension. With the forks, when you're planting that thing on the side of the tire, you're looking through your sweeper, you're hitting your apexes. These leader bikes, when you start accelerating out of your sweeper on your apex, that thing is going to need to be, it's going to start to plant itself. It's really applying the load. You're pouring on the coal. As that bike starts to come up, you're going to need all the suspension you can to deal with the added G-force and the load as you're going through that bend. So it is a little bit heavier in that it might weigh a little bit more, but not by much. And the spring rate is quite a bit stiffer to deal with the greater velocities and the greater power that the bike has. So I'm going to caution you on that. Just don't feel like you need to go ahead and start changing things up on this bike and try to mimic your middleweight bike, because this bike is making practically double the power of your middleweight. It needs that extra heavy duty suspension to support it and to keep it stable under those hard acceleration runs. You might soften up the compression and the rebound just slightly. Get the sag appropriate for your weight, but outside of that, don't try to make this thing some kind of a plushie. It's not meant for that. We all know why we're here on one of those leader class bikes. So just kind of word to the wise, get the suspension set up. If you don't know how to do that, find a local suspension guru around you that can get you sorted out, and you will be stoked with the results. And with that, that's kind of a wrap on this. I don't want to belay the point, just wanted to give a couple of observations. If you're thinking about upgrading from your middleweight sport bike, or let's say you've even got one of the more powerful sport nakeds and you're looking to make the switch up into one of the more dedicated leader class bikes, this is some stuff to consider. Hopefully that helps you. Post up your comments, let me know. And also for the other guys that might be looking to upgrade their bikes, post up your experience too. It can do nothing but help those that are going to be researching this in the future. And with that, guys, hope to catch you on the next one. Thanks for stopping by.